Hi everyone, my name's Richard Jenner. I work with WEC International in Sydney, and I'm really pleased today to introduce Paul Sullivan. Now, Paul's a good friend of mine from Tamworth, and first, Paul, can you remember how we first met?
I think we first met in St Paul's Anglican Church about 25 years ago.
Is it that long ago?
It is
goodness. We must be getting old. That's quite amazing. So a lot of the friends that you have, I have as well. And I think we're all getting a little bit old as well. And it's
have.
Yeah. So
and you're part of the ministry that our Bible study, when you're coming to Tamworth, you visit, and we always pray for you and support you. So,
And we always feel quite privileged about that. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself personally?
Yes, well, I'm retired now. I was a agricultural weeds specialist. Spent over 40 years with the department. I grew up in Gosford and grew up with Christian parents, so I was incredibly blessed. And basically, I've always known Christ. So, I've just had an incredibly blessed life.
Yeah, that's just wonderful. And you've got a lovely wife?
I certainly do.
Yes.
I would have loved for her to have come on something like this, but and we've got 2 children, and the important thing to me is they both love the Lord, as do their partners, and
you are blessed.
That's incredibly great.
I am sure that they'll be praying for you as you travel with me across Europe. So you've decided to join me on this bike trip from Budapest, actually not to London. You're only going to Mulhouse. You're only going 2/3 of the way, but I am really appreciative of that, to have a partner to ride with me that far. I'll be going to 9 countries. I think you're doing
7, I think.
7. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But why on earth did you decide to come with me?
Well, you told me what your vision was, that would be encouraging multicultural refugee centres and a lot of the international ministries over there. And when I thought about it, I kind of got excited about it. I thought, well, what a great ministry. And I'm involved in other ministries, and I just thought this was a great outreach. And I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But also I'm really hoping that, we see the Lord in action and really are able to lift people up.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking forward to too, is seeing God at work.
Yep, for sure.
In all those surprises. I think you mentioned to me before that one of your passions is the gospel.
Absolutely, yep.
And the importance of it going out to everybody. And I think that may have been what excited you as well. Is that true or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best things I've ever seen is that guy that used to write eternity on the pavements of Sydney.
Yeah, well, maybe we could do that like as they're riding along.
At least once in each country.
We're going to have to learn what eternity is in Hungarian, German,
Austrian.
French. They speak German in Austria, but I'm not sure what dialect they would call that. It could be something we do. Now, you've been to Europe a few times.
Yes. Yep.
What's your perception of Europe as I suppose, from a spiritual sense?
I think they're very similar to most Western countries, that unfortunately we're very affluent, and I think the higher socio-economic people there don't think they have a need for Christ. And much like Australia, but those that are struggling more certainly have a greater need as they reach out. And my perception is pretty much that they're pretty much worldly. They're pretty much they're
pretty much like us.
Very much like Australia.
Yeah, very much so. The developing secular world, as we could say.
Unfortunately,
yes. The post-Christian world, if you like. But I sense that there is a new movement of the Spirit there, as well as in Australia. There's change coming, so maybe we can be part of that.
a lot of uncertainty in the world at the moment with the war in the Ukraine, with climate change, with all the massive things that are detrimental things that are happening. And I think people are starting to wonder about their future and what life is really all about and why they have their life.
Yep. Now, when you said you were coming, I was a little bit worried because I knew you were a really good cyclist, and I'm a little bit of an average cyclist. I'll be riding about 2,400 kilometres through these 9 countries. I think you'll be doing about 1,400 of those. But you've got quite a cycling history. So when did you start cycling?
I started cycling when I was 13. I started racing at that age and raced for quite a few years, and got fairly serious. Used to go down to state championships, and even when I got serious at 13, I was doing about 300 kilometres a week training. So
that's a lot of training. You're telling me before, even as how old were you when you would strip your bike down every week and fix it?
Yeah, 13 or 14-year-old. I used to, racing was a Saturday afternoon, and so every week I stripped my bike right down, wheels, all the ball bearings, checked everything, oiled them up with Singer oil, Singer sewing oil, which is very, very light, and just checked them and made sure that there was absolutely no rolling or minimal rolling friction.
Okay. Well, I actually like those stories because I think, well, if something goes wrong with my bike on the route, I've got you to call on and your tools as well. So how long did you do racing for then? Was it?
Until I was in year 12. And at year 12, I would have had to step up to about 500 kilometres a week to stay competitive at a state level, I guess. And there was no money to be made back then. So if I wanted to look after a family, I couldn't be a cyclist. So I decided that I'd have to give it away. And
so the Tour de France you missed out on as a young guy.
Thank goodness when I look at those hills.
Yeah. Well, in some ways you're getting this now as you come to Europe with me. So after that, what's your cycling history? Did you do much cycling in your middle age type thing? Or?
Yeah, when I started a family, I would come home from work and I'd put my little toddlers on the back of the bike and I'd go for a 20 kilometre or 30 kilometre, 40 kilometre ride with the children. And in latter years, the last 5 or 10 years, I've been doing triathlons and doing some of those, have 90 kilometre bike legs. So
that's pretty impressive. How old are you? You can tell us the decade you're in.
I know, well, I'm 67.
67. So. Man, that's not that old, is it?
But I must say, in a triathlon, I far prefer the bike leg because going down a hill, I can just have a rest. When you're swimming, you got to keep swimming, or if you're running, you got to keep running. So you don't get that luxury.
That's really awesome. And you've borrowed a bike for this trip to Europe. I was very excited because you've got a Surly long haul trucker. Is that correct?
Yeah, my brother-in-law has lent it to me. So thank you, Kel.
Yeah. If you're into bike packing or bike touring, that's sort of a dream bike to have. It's a little bit heavy, but so it's quite impressive. And I'll try and look the part for you with my other bike. So that's really exciting. So looking forward to not just the spiritual side of the trip, but the bike side, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I am too, and I must admit I've got a little bit of a COVID curve now. So hopefully the cycling, I'll lose a few kilos and get rid of that COVID curve.
Yeah, I think one aspect of the tour that I planned is we're only starting off doing about 50 kilometres a day along a fairly flat stretch along the Danube. If you ride across Europe, you can often go along rivers and it's not that many hills. And so we'll be able to get a bit of fitness in the first 2 weeks.
Before we hit Austria and Switzerland?
Yes, before we hit there. So we're a little bit of grace there, but eventually we're looking at about 70 kilometre days with a few hills in the way. But I'm sure we can manage.
Well, I'm going to have a good credit card and, if I need a bus.
Or a motel. Okay, 3 last questions for you. First one, what are you most looking forward to on this trip?
seeing the Spirit in action
Oh, there
as,
you go.
as He lifts people up. I mean, that's watching the Spirit at work. Yep.
Okay, so it's more than just seeing beautiful scenery.
Oh, that'll be fabulous. I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. It's going to be. I'm excited about
Yep.
the touristy parts, but I'm very excited about the spiritual
Yeah, I
parts.
think I'd agree with you. Meeting people and seeing God at work in them.
Yep.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah. What are you worried about or not looking forward to?
I'm not really too worried about anything. Maybe I should be. But no. I just believe that the Lord's hand is upon us as we go, and that He will look after His own.
I'd agree with that. I think I may be worried about one or two of those big hills approaching Switzerland. I think
There's always buses.
there's always buses and trains. That's so true. Last question. How can we pray for you?
I guess, firstly, that will be God's heart to the world. That we window to His heart. That will be His hands and feet and mouth as we go. That people will see Christ in us. That He will give us good health. That He will look after our families while we're away, and that we'll return safely back home, and that we'll be fruitful in our ministry.
Yeah, they're good prayers, not just for a trip, but for day to day, isn't it?
It is, for sure.
But I think I can, echo that. Always feel so privileged when people are praying for us.
Yeah.
As we know they will be. So thank you for listening. We do appreciate your prayers and you following us, and we pray that you have a great day.